Hey guys, welcome back. We have a new moon in Cancer that we're going to be talking about today. This Cancer season, I do think is going to be another one of these times that is very transitional, and I don't think the way that the Cancer lunar cycle begins is going to be how it ends. I think there's going to be a lot of things that transpire over the course of the next few weeks, which kind of shift or change or alter things radically. And we've got some very interesting themes coming through and associated with our Cancer new moon this year, and we're going to be getting into all of that in our report for the day. But before we get into all of the details, I just want to give you guys the basic data of the chart. It's happening on Wednesday, June 25th, 2025, 10:31 Universal Time, 6:31 a.m. Eastern Time, and the exact alignment of the sun and the moon coming together at 4 degrees and 7 minutes of the sign of Cancer. This is also happening in a very tight conjunction to Jupiter, which is really indicating some expansion that is likely to be trying to come throughout the course of this lunar cycle. But the conjunction between the new moon and Jupiter is being very tightly squared by Saturn and Neptune in the sign of Aries. We've been dealing with and navigating this dynamic for a couple of weeks now. We're going to talk about it more in the report for the day. Another interesting thing about the new moon, though, is that it's exactly sextiling Mars in Virgo as well, who happens to be ruling the position of Saturn and Neptune while they square the new moon and Jupiter. And that's putting an emphasis on Mars energy, and we are gaining some very clear signaling and advice about how to best use our energy throughout the course of this lunar cycle in order to sort of drive some of the success that could be associated with the alignments coming through right now, as opposed to some of the pitfall energy that could also be indicated to manifest if we don't navigate carefully. Caution and care, I do want to say, to get this report started, are being emphasized to me. There's a very unstable kind of energetic dynamic out there right now. This is, I think, a quite accident prone next couple of weeks, and I do think, and I will emphasize this several times in the report for today, paying attention to detail, being skeptical, slowing down, double checking ourselves, and not getting too full of ourselves. All of these are beneficial practices that are going to help us navigate the energy throughout the course of the month. Another thing about the way that this specific new moon chart is presenting itself, in my opinion, is indicating some maybe very sudden or unexpected changes having to do with relationships, financial situations, material resource-based situations, and specifically in the context of corrections and endings, things suddenly coming to an end or suddenly being rearranged in a way that promotes their ability to grow better and to grow more. We also have Uranus at the 29th degree of the sign of Taurus as this new moon hits. That means that during this lunar cycle, Uranus is going to change signs. Uranus, to me, is promoting instability at that very last degree of the tropical sign of Taurus. And I do think, again, there's a more accident prone nature to things, and the Mars Virgo energy, which we're going to talk about in the report, is indicating, slow, steady, cautious. This is the way we want to navigate and maneuver throughout the course of this lunar cycle. We also have a Mercury Chiron square going on. We'll talk about that, and Venus ruling the position of Uranus at that very last degree of the sign of Taurus, where he's been for the past 7 years. This is a 7-year transit that is culminating throughout the course of this lunar cycle as well. And Uranus, of course, rules change. That's why I'm saying Uranus is literally moving from Taurus to Gemini while this Cancer cycle unfolds. So things are not likely to end the same way they started. And I do think things are going to get real weird. I've been saying that for a couple days, and I will address that further as we get towards the end of the report. But Venus is also in a trine to the south node, talking about some type of a release in the context of the Venus-oriented elements of things also. So we're going to talk about that. And those are the primary aspects: the Sun conjunct Jupiter, squaring Saturn and Neptune, but also in the sextile to Mars, Mercury square Chiron, and Venus in the aspect to the nodes. I do think Venus is in a trine to the south node, sextile to the north node. Those are the primary aspects that I'm looking at and where I'm drawing all this information that I'm about to go into in relation to our chart today. And also, because this is a new moon, this pertains to the next 4 weeks in entirety, as whatever energetic blueprint, whatever natal chart or chart of the moment is existing when the sun and the moon come into their exact alignment in whatever sign they're traveling through each month. This is the energetic blueprint that is set to unfold and develop throughout the course of that next 4 lunar cycle period of time. So let's get into it then. I do think overall, this is probably going to be a pretty productive period of time, at least in terms of maybe like the little things, tasks, errands, agendas, to-do lists, things that need to be done. There seems to be a motivation to like get through something, or to get something done, to be done with something, to complete something coming through here. Information does seem to be the driving force of progress also, and also change with Mars in the sign of Virgo, which really is driving a lot of this energy, and also Uranus preparing to enter Gemini. Major changes to the way that we're thinking about things pending as we move into the new moon energy. And as I mentioned earlier, I do think that we need to perhaps just take a bit or practice a bit of extra caution or care throughout the course of this lunar cycle, because there is a more like accident prone energy out there, especially perhaps in relation to like being in transit or transportation, or just kind of like being out and about and stuff like that. Relationships and financial situations could definitely be in a state of flux throughout the course of this month as well. Sudden changes, endings, and awakenings. Overall, I do feel like it's another dynamic period of time that is transitioning into what is going to be a summer of strangeness. As I said, this Uranus Gemini situation that we've got going on, Uranus concluding the Taurus transit, entering the sign of Gemini, immediately then coming into a trine with Pluto in Aquarius. This is unlike anything that we've experienced pretty much ever, any of us that are on the planet right now. So we are moving into some unprecedented territory, and that's another reason why like we shouldn't get too fixed or attached to like projected outcomes of things right now. Just because something seems like it's going in a certain direction, that does not solidify the like destiny that is to become and take place. I'm telling you, there's some major wild cards that are about to be coming up that are really perhaps going to alter the way that we are thinking about things, and even, you know, viewing certain situations and scenarios that are coming into fruition or playing out now. There are big things I do think that are happening or pushing to happen throughout the course of this cycle, but I also think that they are likely to be like, the bigger they are, the harder or slower I think they are to come in the context of the square that we've got going on with Saturn and Neptune. And again, I've been saying this for a couple weeks right now, as Jupiter has been squaring Saturn. Gains require sacrifices. Like, our ability to grow and expand and be released to go in a new direction or make progress or become something more in this energy, which is indicated here, also is going to require some type of surrender, release, or letting go of something else that has previously defined us. Because if we are not willing to like expand through the limitations that we existed within previously, it's like we can't get to wherever it is that universe is calling us forth and compelling us to align with as we do move forward now into this unfolding future. So I do think that big things are really happening. Big significant transitional things are happening throughout the course of this Cancer cycle. Again, this is a cardinal cycle that is action oriented, initiatory energy. Things are happening, things are taking place, and those things predominantly are changes and breakthroughs and turning points But there has to be some type of give and take. We can't become what we're meant to become if we remain as we are. And so that's probably going to be a theme that we see playing out in various areas of our lives, microcosm, macrocosm, throughout the course of this cycle. Another thing that is probably going to be more prominent during this period of time, words are the weapons of choice, and we do need to be very careful in our discernment of truth versus illusion. When we have a big square going on between the sun and Jupiter and Neptune especially, but also Saturn right there, Neptune and Saturn in that conjunction, things can be super overblown and deceptive. And if you move too fast and if you aren't extra careful, disappointment and betrayal could be the outcomes instead of the blessings and success, which are also in a way promised to us at this point in time with a new moon in the sign of Cancer in a very tight conjunction right there to Jupiter. So with Mars in the sign of Virgo right now, okay, knowing the facts, the details, the answers, the information, being organized, being critical, being precise. This is what supports our success, okay? The supportive sextile to Jupiter and the new moon in Cancer, and diminishes the potential for mistakes, which is, I think, that's like the flip side of this energy right now. On one hand, with the Jupiter conjunction, this is indicating good fortune, blessings, success, expansion, growth. But again, there's got to be a give and take here. There is something that, we need to overcome in order to receive or achieve that success or that blessing or that reward. But on the other side of this energy, big mistakes can also be the outcome, which then turn into these karmic lessons that actually, put us back on the proper path and help us to not make those mistakes again. So there is a blessing regardless of how the energy plays out. But these big mistakes could also be going on as a result of being overly confident, overly inflated, overestimating, doing too much, giving too much, promising too much, that turns into something that is actually more of a detriment or just comes to nothing, leads to discouragement or disappointment, as opposed to those success and blessings that are also very achievable in this energy if we are using our energy the right way. And I'm going to elaborate on this more as we get through the report, but there is a specific formula for success that we are being provided, and I think it's a good thing to be aware of and to be mindful of throughout the course of this cycle. And I've mentioned already that there are indications of an enhanced potential for accidents and stuff to play out throughout the course of this cycle. One of the primary indications of that is the degree where this new moon itself is aligning. As I told you guys in the beginning, it's happening at 4 degrees and 7 minutes of the sign of Cancer. In terms of the symbolic placement of this new moon, we're going to round up to 5 degrees of the sign of Cancer. Whenever we are reading symbolism in relation to degree placement, we round up a degree because we read the wave of energy that's coming in, not the wave that's waning out and dissipating. So we're going to be looking at 5 degrees of Cancer in terms of the alignment symbolically for our new moon, and that Sabian symbol is at a railroad crossing, and automobile is wrecked by a train. We also, as I said, have Uranus right now at 29 degrees, last critical degree of the sign of Taurus, preparing to enter the very first degree of the sign of Gemini. Uranus can also make things a bit more accident prone, and at that very last degree, I think, is contributing to the overall lack of stability in terms of being able to predict at all how things are going to happen right now. So, and with Mars and Virgo, you guys, I just feel like I need to keep reiterating the need to slow down, be precise, use care. I mean, a lot of things just are out of our control right now. Again, we are at this very transitional moment. The nodes of the moon are involved. Divine timing, divine alignment, things happening a certain way to force change. If there is stagnation occurring that just won't let go, but that is being like cosmically ordained to let go at this point in time. So try to stay grounded, okay, throughout the course of, you know, this week at least, and really if you can throughout the course of the whole unfolding lunar cycle. Be in your body to the best of your ability. And another thing, this is another primary indication that's coming through as a result just of how things are lining up for us. Trust your intuition, you guys, during the new moon, throughout the course of this week, as this entire lunar cycle unfolds. Trust your gut about things. With both the sun and the moon, both luminaries in a conjunction to Jupiter and in the sign of Cancer, our intuitive faculty is truly the most dominant source of truth out there pretty much right now. Cancer also, you know, rules the stomach. It is this highly sensitive, feeling-based emotional energy. We have the new moon again happening in the square to Neptune. This distorts the presentation of truth when we have Jupiter and Neptune in a square together, in a big cardinal square like this, especially with the new moon. It makes it difficult to tell the difference between what is real and what is not, what is truth and what is illusion, what is fact and what is fantasy. Jupiter in Cancer with the sun and the moon there. This is also the moon's lunar cycle. The moon rules the sign of Cancer. So this is even enhancing that feeling-based intuitive faculty even more. And Jupiter is truth. Okay, so the way that we discern truth in this energy actually is much more aligned with our gut instinct, our intuitive urges, what we are just feeling and like this inner sense of knowing, as opposed to like what anyone is saying or what any like external source of information is projecting or presenting. So pay attention, you guys, to your intuition, to your just like gut feelings and reactions to things. Also in regards to travel and logistical situations with this more like accident prone vibe out there, trust in your instincts about things and monitor yourself, monitor your feelings, pay attention to just sort of your body's sensations and reactions to various situations and scenarios and people and things that they're saying. And I should also note, like, in that same regard, this is probably going to be a highly emotional energy. Mercury is also in a square to Chiron as our new moon plays out. This is the mind. This is what we're talking about. This is what we're thinking about. People could be extra sensitive. That's big emotions with the sun and the moon and Jupiter aligning in the sign of Cancer. Big feelings, big emotions. And then the verbal component of things as well, the mind, right? What we're focused on, what we're talking about, what we're thinking about, the topic of conversations in the same sign of Cancer, but squaring Chiron, which can represent our wounding, our trauma, old pains, unresolved issues and stuff like that. So people could be extra sensitive, and there could be these like outpourings of various things going on, emotion, sentiment, care, compassion, but also like grief and frustration, and then like empathy and kindness and generosity and support. This is a very supportive lunar cycle. I will say that, like, we have like universe is on our side here, like God, great spirit, universe, your higher self, however you connect and relate to a higher power. That energy is supporting our ability to persevere and overcome and transcend out of whatever obstructions, blockages, limitations, or challenges we may be facing or have found ourselves facing over this past couple weeks. Again, it is like this turning point energy. Like, we have reached the time where we're ready to move on, where we've gained the insight, learned the lesson, and we do have cosmic support coming through in various ways. And as I was saying in my last video, it may be in terms of someone just showing up at like the right place or the right time or very unexpectedly that provides exactly what you needed in some given situation. People are supporting people, and the Jupiterian vibe here with the new moon and in the sign of Cancer, this is going to make people generally more compassionate, more empathetic, more charitable, but we have to be very careful because while this is this like my cup runneth over type of energy, like this outpouring overflow energy, and people are going to be motivated through this generosity or this compassion, or some sense of just like overflow that they feel coming through them or coming over them. Because of the square to Neptune, we have to be careful of false narratives or manipulations cloaked as victimhood or neediness or something like that, that takes advantage of the, the kindness or the generosity that is also present with that square. There could be large public responses or like charity events to support people in need or something like this that is highlighted during this period of time, but we really just want to make sure, again, that we are very positive of the accuracy of whatever claims are being made in the context of whatever support is being given and, therefore received. As I mentioned earlier, there is this distortion in our ability to discern or perceive things accurately right now. If you do find yourself experiencing this overflow or this outpouring or this generosity or desire to give, just make sure that you know exactly where your time, energy, love, compassion, resources are going to, and that they wouldn't be better suited elsewhere. Now, another theme that, I've touched on, but I want to address before I get into going into more depth into the individual aspects that are making up our new moon chart, this fight to grow and expand. We have this cardinal square going on. This is an energy we've been moving through this past couple of weeks. As of our new moon, it is finally starting to separate. Jupiter is there as well. I mean, that's growth, that's expansion, that's things becoming more and broader and bigger. That's truth, that's understanding, that's wisdom, and this energy is separating. So I do think that this Cancer cycle should represent a final like breakthrough or turning point or moving on or moving beyond a point in struggle or challenge that we've been encountering throughout the course of this past couple of weeks. But we are still heavy with that square there on this like conflict, war theme, pressure, tension type of energy, type of vibe. The earth is at 5 degrees of the sign of Capricorn for our new moon, always in an opposition to the sun. And when we've got a new moon lining up, sun and moon coming together, opposing both the sun and the moon. That Sabian symbol is Indians, some rowing a canoe, others dancing a war dance in it. So, there is this like being on the war path, parties on the war path type of energy going on. But it does, again, I do think the tension is waning. Perhaps a successful outcome is possible with the proper work, effort, strategy, and planning. Mars in Virgo, I feel like, is really what so much of the energy right now sort of rests on. Our ability to align with the qualities and characteristics that would be represented through Mars Virgo energy is definitely going to benefit us. And I'm going to elaborate on all that, okay, as we do move through the report. But let's discuss the aspects now individually and then, how they're really relating to one another. The new moon, as I've said, is in a conjunction to Jupiter. First of all, Jupiter is the great benefic. This is, the king of the gods. There actually could be some type of emphasis on kings, supreme leaders, something like that, for some reason that is extra prominent or extra evident or just very highlighted for some reason throughout the course of this lunar cycle. But this is giving big energy and support primarily for like all types of domestic matters, being in the sign of Cancer. Home, family, community, the mother, the homeland, the motherland, place of origin. These things are definitely emphasized and blessed, indicated to be blessed as well as this cycle unfolds. Also, comfort, safety, and security and fertility would be things that would fall under the Cancer umbrella that could be very emphasized here. And perhaps also things having to do with protection or the husband or the father, because Jupiter does resonate to and represent all of those things as well. And generosity, kindness, compassion, charity, and the willingness to give are going to be emphasized here, as I just got done discussing. And hope, optimism, faith, celebration, good luck, good fortune, blessings generally, and positive opportunities, upliftment, optimism, success, growth, expansion. All of this type of stuff can be indicated when we have a new moon in conjunction to Jupiter. And again, this is not just the day that it's happening or the week that it's happening, throughout the course of this next 4-week period of time. But the thing is, and this is where we kind of like need to slam on brakes a little bit, the sun, moon, new moon, Jupiter conjunction is happening, as we know, in this tight cardinal square to Saturn and Neptune in a conjunction in the sign of Aries. We cannot get carried away on some high, some ideal, some fantasy about things. We have to consciously stay grounded, or else an overinflated ego, overlooking the details, not paying attention to the fine print, this can all lead to failure, collapse, disappointment, instead of the equally possible growth and success if we're not careful. That is because the square to Neptune and Saturn makes it real difficult, you guys, for things to come into fruition. If we're not being very specific, if we're not doing everything in the right way, there's a strong likelihood that our efforts or our vision or our optimism won't translate into real tangible success, but will actually become more of an illusion or a disappointment or a source of discouragement than something that we can actually bring into the real life and the real world. It is possible, it is very possible to reach that lofty ideal here, but it's going to require patience, extreme attention to detail. Anything else is more likely, I do think, to fall apart with this square going on as well. So a lot of people, I think, are not going to be aware of this and are going to be very overly optimistic about things, think they have all the answers, think that they're invincible, feel like they like literally struck gold somehow, but then come to find that they, you know, made some type of mistake or like missed some important detail or something that prevents whatever it was from being able to become what they thought it was going to be, or maybe even, you know, what it should have been or could have been. So we don't want to get carried away with ourselves, and we really want to be making sure that we are approaching everything we're getting involved with right now with an extra level of caution and an extra level of care. Now, the reason that I am so adamant about that like way of approaching things is really twofold. I have told you guys Mars in Virgo is driving a lot of this, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But this Jupiterian influence as well, you guys, like for all of the bigness and the blessings and the good things that it does for us, too much Jupiter energy can get us so consumed in the big picture, the lofty ideal with Neptune there, the broad perspective, that we totally neglect to pay attention to those details, that fine print. And when we are overlooking that stuff in favor of the bigger picture right now, with those squares going on, that can be one of the ways that we are like shooting ourselves in the foot. The other side of this story, so the Jupiter energy already primes us to be missing kind of like those crucial, vital pieces of information that could potentially make or break whether something is able to come into fruition. And then we've also got the Mars and Virgo energy in the exact sextile to the new moon and to Jupiter, but also, and this to me is like fundamental, this is like one of the big indications here, ruling the position of our obstructions, okay? We are talking about the reason that we might be having some trouble translating this like big Jupiter energy, like the opportunities or the ideas or the whatever it represents into something that is like real and tangible, is because of the square that we have going on between Neptune and Saturn, both of which restrict, limit, and with Saturn and Neptune together, this breaks down our ability to like manifest and form things. They're in the sign of Aries, okay? Aries is ruled by Mars. Mars is in the sign of Virgo. So in this particular energetic setup, our obstructions are alleviated and become actually contributors to our success if we use our energy the right way. And with Mars in the sign of Virgo, the right way in this case would be to be as Virgo in our actions and in our behaviors as we possibly can. Mars is our energy. It's our energy body. It rules our actions, what we're doing, how we're behaving. Mars in the sextile to the new moon and Jupiter in the sign of Virgo says our Virgo-ish behavior supports our growth, supports our success, supports our emotional fulfillment. Sextiles are a supportive, facilitating energy. Remember, Mars is also ruling the sign of the obstructions of what is working against whatever we're trying to do right now. Aligning with the Mars and Virgo tendencies, therefore, are going to promote our ability to make good things happen. Mars and Virgo is going to be the driver of truth, growth, wisdom, comfort, security, blessings, good luck, and success this cycle. That's what this layout and lineup emphasizes to me. And even the degree location of Mars, which again, this is an exact sextile. The new moon is happening via this symbol placement, 5 degrees of Cancer. Mars is at 5 degrees of Virgo. That Sabian symbol is a man becoming aware of nature spirits and normally unseen spiritual energies. So this degree, again, is emphasizing a few of these recurring themes that do seem to be coming up in the context of our chart layout. The intuitive faculty that is present here that really is functioning as the true source of truth and discernment right now, but also this ability to become more aware or to exercise a greater level of discernment in the context of what we don't usually see or notice, for some reason being something that we gain a conscious awareness of somehow throughout this period of time. So with Mars being at that specific degree as well, I think it's talking about the revealing nature of this moon also. And that's another thing that we've been talking about. I mean, the Jupiter square to Neptune, yes, that is distorting and disorienting our perception of truth, but it is also breaking down illusions that perhaps we had been perceiving as truth in the past. That's another way that this energy is functioning. On one hand, it makes it difficult to tell like what is really real and what is not, but it is also destroying old illusions that have limited our perception of truth and reality and what is possible in the past. So those polarized octaves could be themes that we see playing out and, just more highlighted or prominent while we move through this lunar cycle as well. But paying attention, I do think, and our ability to pay attention to things and our ability to recognize what is normally overlooked could contribute some added benefit to us somehow, considering that's the position of Mars ruling our obstructions and challenges and supporting our growth and success. It really is, to me, like that is the key in all of this. This is an energy that deceives, but we can't be deceived if we are acting extra Virgo, if we are paying attention, if we are dotting our I's, if we are crossing our T's, if we are looking at the fine print, if we are checking and double checking, if we are being skeptical of everything, we can't be deceived to the same extent that we could if we were not behaving in that manner. This energy frustrates, it challenges, it limits, it depresses, it breaks down, it obstructs, But with Mars in Virgo right now, ruling those challenges and ruling that energy, and in the sextile to new moon, as we know is taking place, and I keep saying, Mars in Virgo is also a step-by-step energy. 1 foot at a time, 1 day at a time, slow and steady, patience, incremental progress, paying attention, and not rushing things, slowing ourselves down, having a critical eye. This is the formula for success here. Whether it's navigating challenges and frustrations and blockages and limitations, or being able to discern what is real and what is true and what is going to be a good choice or decision for us. This is how Mars in Virgo is a very effective tool in that process, and it is just so incredibly evident, considering that, like, literally it's the sextile. It's like, oh, that's what you need to do to support your success, and oh, also it's ruling those challenges over there, those blockages, those frustrations, those distortions. So if we just implement the proper Mars Virgo behavior, actions, and protocols, I think that nothing can really hold us back in this energy, okay? However, again, just to, re-emphasize and reiterate, being overly optimistic, getting a big head, being a know-it-all, overlooking the facts and details, feeling limitless, feeling untouchable, being careless, being overly trusting, overly giving, overly naive, rushing into things, taking things at face value, being overly extravagant, overly indulgent, going too far, being sloppy. These are basically like anti-Mars and Virgo behaviors, and they can be red flags of this Jupiterian energy, and that is where we are likely to see these karmic lessons square to Saturn. Saturn represents our karmic lessons, come in via perhaps some big mistakes or foolish errors that are equally probable in this energy, and the heightened accident-prone nature of things as well, okay? That is where I feel like that end of the energy is more likely to find us if we are falling into the limitlessness associate, and then like Mars is our ego, right? So a lot of people could have a super overinflated ego that is driving careless mistakes that become karmic lessons that ultimately in the long run do serve as some type of gift or blessing, and that they open our eyes, maybe force us to correct our behavior or put us back on the right track. But again, like that's probably a more long-term blessing or benefit if we are navigating and interacting with this current energy that way. But that's also something that is likely to be a part of however this represents. I do see like big mistakes going on over this period of time, and also big wins and big successes. Mars and Virgo, okay, being so involved here in the sextile to Jupiter, this could also be issues coming up regarding like administrative or paperwork, organization, data collection, bureaucratic, corporate, clerical type of stuff that's going on. It could bring annoyances or things along those lines, could be a source of irritation or conflict. But again, with this sextile to Jupiter, for some reason, this actually seems like it may be something that will support our growth or our progress somehow. And patience, adaptability, Mars and Virgo behavior is going to, I think, assist us in, navigating some of that as well. There could also be, this is a more verbal dispute, verbal conflict prone energy, especially maybe in the workplace or in the service industry, or like with things to do with employees or something like that. Also, of course, like the administrative or bureaucratic systems or settings could experience an enhanced level of conflict or just issues while we have Mars transiting Virgo and throughout the course of this lunar cycle as well. And another thing, I mentioned that Mercury is in Cancer right now with the new moon, and in a square to Chiron and Aries for our new moon as well. Mercury's also ruling the position of Mars, right? Because Mars is in the sign of Virgo. To me, this brings up potential for a level of wounding, pain, trauma, vulnerability, hypersensitivity that could come with or be involved in these verbal disputes or conflicts somehow. Also, Mercury is ruling the position where Uranus is on the verge of transitioning. Uranus is about to enter Gemini. That is one of Mercury's signs of rulership. Another indication to me to be careful with travel, in traffic, just being out and about generally. Mercury square Chiron can also represent vulnerabilities in our movements or potential for accidents. So that is another little bit of indication there that tells me that we may need to just be on alert more so when we're in transit over this next period of time. Lastly, I want to talk about Venus for a minute, okay? Venus is in Taurus for our new moon. She's actually aspecting the nodes, trining the south node and sextiling the north node, and she's ruling the position of Uranus at 29 degrees of Taurus, and she's actually, unbelievably to me, it is crazy to me that 3 days before Uranus concludes his transit of the sign of Taurus, he's going to have a conjunction with Venus, who rules the sign of Taurus in the sign of Taurus. Literally, like, Uranus could have essentially picked any month, any point in time to leave the sign of Taurus, but just because of the way that it worked out, because he's been in the sign for 7 years, you know what I mean? Like, the chances that he would be exiting the sign just as the ruler of that sign happens to be making her once yearly transit through the sign. Another one of those cosmic synchronicities that is just like beyond comprehension to me. That is big, and that is happening this lunar cycle. And Venus, as I said, is also in a trine aspect, facilitating supportive free flow aspect with the south node of the moon, karmic release, for the new moon energy as the sun and the moon align in the sign of Cancer this year. I'm telling you, we have reached some final point of change, some final point of release in terms of some phase of growth that has been trying to come into fruition or rearrange our life or get us unstuck or awaken us to something that's been going on since 2018, you guys. Venus trine the south node in Virgo, more of that Virgo energy for the new moon, karmic release, love, money, connection, values, our personal image, other people, relationships, partnerships, projects, assets, resources. And as Uranus hits that 29 degree mark, it concludes the 7-year transit. Venus prepares to join him for the send-off. This is representing throughout the course of this cycle to me, like undeniably so, sudden changes, sudden shifts, sudden endings in what we want, what we prefer, what we value. Of course, also these relationship dynamics, things to do with money, value, worth, finances are going to come with this. This could be quite financially and materially or relationally actually destabilizing. It could indicate disturbing the peace and some comfort zones really being disrupted over this next couple of weeks, or just some sudden change, most specifically having to do with corrections or endings that is pertaining to the Venus-oriented themes, archetypes, characteristics, parts of life and society. Venus is also at 20 degrees of the sign of Taurus for our new moon. That Sabian symbol is wisps of wing-like clouds streaming across the sky. I do think that whatever changes are happening in association with the Venus themes, love, money, relationships, projects, resources, assets, value, worth, finances, priorities, all of that type of stuff, these are the changes that are going to be happening very quickly. While like this square that's represented here, our personal progress, what we're overcoming, the challenges we're navigating, our efforts coming to a successful outcome, while this could be this like slow, careful, deliberate process that's playing out throughout the course of this cycle, this Venus stuff, these are the areas of life and the parts of our life where things are probably going to be happening suddenly, surprisingly, out of the blue. This is divine timing at play with Venus in the facilitating aspect with destiny and karma, the nodes of the moon, Uranus also at that very, very last degree of Venus's sign. And on July 4th, she is going to make that conjunction These are last minute corrections that need to happen now at essentially any cost, and they could be extremely like jarring and honestly like kind of brutal because of that, because it is this divine timing at play. Like there is this need for whatever it is to happen now, and if we for whatever reason haven't been able to get on that same page, then that tower is coming down, that lightning is striking, and the rug's getting pulled out, like we're getting booted out of the nest. It could be not very comfortable, not very settling, but it is very, very purposeful, and it has to happen now for some type of reason. And I do think once we get through the first week of July, things should start changing quite dramatically. But specifically, how we're thinking about things is going to change, and that will be what is at the root of the more broad and sweeping changes that also come about as we move through July and the rest of the summer or the winter if you're down south. So slow down and pay attention this cycle, you guys. Do not rush things. Use skepticism, care, and discernment. Trust your intuition. That is our best compass right now. Have faith, trust in divine timing, but don't get too full of yourself. Don't get carried away. Have patience, open to receive. This is, again, this very both receptive and giving energy, but we need to surrender what it is we can't control. We have to let go of what and who just is leaving our life right now. Clinging on to the past is going to work against our ability to grow, transform, and be successful. Realize right now that things are being rearranged to support your growth and unlock your potential. That really, truly is at the bottom of all of this, even if it doesn't seem that way. Stay on task, get things done, be productive, check and double check everything, and be very deliberate and conscious in your choices and in your actions. Various things could seem or feel like they are an absolute train wreck throughout the course of this cycle, especially with the new moon occurring at that very train wreck degree, but we are being cosmically supported in overcoming challenges or in making the big mistakes that are actually also going to be our biggest lessons and perhaps eventually our biggest blessings because of what we learn and what we awaken to as a result of them. Growth, blessings, and expansion are the path that this new moon is trying to put us on. But it's really up to us how we get there, okay? And outcomes to things are not going to be what we think. Like I said, big changes, and especially in the way that we are perceiving things and thinking about things, going to happen throughout the course of the month. And where we are going, we literally have never been before. This is the end of an era and the birth of a new paradigm that is going to take things, I do think, in a radically new and different direction. So that's what I have to say, you guys. That's how I feel about the ongoings and upcoming unfoldings of things as we enter and begin to move through our Cancer season this year. Blessings, gifts, rewards, big wins, exponential growth, unlimited opportunities, definitely on the table, but it's all about our approach. Our approach is really everything. The formula to success this cycle is to operate within the Mars and Virgo archetype mindset construct as much as we possibly can. The more we can do that, the more success we're going to have, and the easier it's going to be to navigate the difficulties and the tests that do present during this period of time. So that's what I got, you guys. I'm going to get us a synchronicity card now, asking God, Spirit, Universe for some guidance or advice on how we can best navigate this upcoming Cancer cycle. What do we need to know? What should we keep in mind? And our card for today, you guys, says it's your attitude. Straight is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. Matthew 7:14. The only way you can alter outer conditions is to change your mental attitude. For harmony, peace, prosperity, and health to enter your life, you must fill your subconscious with the understanding that all harmony, peace, abundance, and security is yours right now. So that's our message, you guys. And if we are struggling to alter our attitude on our own as Uranus enters the sign of Gemini. Again, I do think that is going to be one of the fundamental things that is changing, that is going to lead to a lot of these big changes that are coming up here. But our guidance, you guys, is to change our attitude if we find ourselves coming up against, the only way you can alter outer conditions is to change your mental attitude. So our best way to win in this energy is to give ourselves the necessary attitude adjustments, and I will add to that, try to fall in line with the Mars Virgo tendencies as well. So that's our guidance, you guys. That's what I have to say. Message from the stars, message from our synchronicity card. I hope you guys liked the video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel, you guys. Share it with your friends if you think that they would also enjoy this type of astrology content, if they want to narrate the shift of the ages with us. I would love to have them. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for being here. Your presence is truly valuable to me. I'm so glad that I have you guys to talk about astrology with, and that we are all narrating the shift of the ages together. Leave me comments, drop me a comment if you are having experiences that line up with or reflect what I'm talking about in these videos. That is also valuable, very valuable information to me. And if you want to know what's on this whiteboard, I have a Facebook group where I post images of those boards. That is where you'll find that. Linked in my description box below. That is where you'll find that. And come back with me, you guys, on Friday. We have a weekend of astrology that we're gonna get into. We've got more coming at us. We've got shifting vibes this weekend. Mercury's changing signs, entering Leo. Lots more to talk about. I'll be back to do that. You don't want to miss it. You should come too. And I will see you then, guys. Have a really beautiful new moon, midpoint of your week, and until next time, bye.